Hello, everyone, and good afternoon. Welcome to Coaching Think Talk. I am Coach Maan from Life Coach Philippines, and this is Coaching for Healthy Mindspace. This coaching conversation is for individuals who are experiencing uncertainty and overwhelm in their lives due to some negative and unhealthy mindsets. And, these are the thoughts that they are usually and constantly battling in their minds. And it is my desire to help them break free from these thinking patterns through the renewing of their mind so that they can have full and abundant lives as they journey their calling and purpose. And I'd like to thank you for joining me live this afternoon. Please leave your digital footprint by letting me know where you are watching me from today. Also, feel free to tag a friend or a family member who can join in our discussion this afternoon. And feel free also to share this video so that we can reach more individuals who can benefit from what I will be sharing in this session. So, if you happen to have stumbled through, you've stumbled with this video by chance, it is actually being streamed live via the Facebook page of Life Coach Philippines and also simultaneously at the YouTube channel Coach AI Connect. So if this is your first time in these platforms or if you haven't yet, please like, follow, and subscribe to our pages. And also, if you are watching this on a replay, please key in hashtag replay. I'd like to take this time to shortly introduce myself also, in case you're wondering who I am. I am Coach Maan Lamorena, and I am a certified CACC or Co-Actively Co-Create Life Coach. I am also a certified mental toughness coach. And I am also a scholar of the 6 Steps to Six-Figure Public Speaking Career Training by Master Coach A. So for this training, I was joined by um, 19 fellow coach speakers, and it was really a fun time for us because we really were trained to master the 5 minute speech. And if you are like me and my fellow coaches who want to overcome your fear of public speaking, then I invite you to please join us in the 5 Minute Talk Club by Master Coach A. This is a Facebook community. So after this video, I will send the link to this group so you can join it. And this is a good opportunity for you to learn and master the 5 minute talk formula the fun way. So aside from being all these, I am also a wife and a mother to a 4-year-old daughter. And I am the woman behind this Facebook community, You Renewed, where I share thoughts and ideas on how you can overcome these negative thoughts that you are having in your minds. And if this is something that you want to know more of or you are passionate about, then I really invite you to please join this group. And if you want to reach me or you just want to have a conversation, you may reach me at my Facebook page. That's Coach Maan. So I hope you can like and follow it. And I really hope that we can connect one of these days. So for our conversation today, I would also like to encourage you to please share your thoughts. Whatever insights or any learnings you will get from our conversation this afternoon, so that people who will read it in your own timeline with these hashtags, hashtag pack my bag moment and hashtag coaching think talk, will also learn from what you have learned. And we can reach more people with the message this afternoon. So before I begin, I would just like to acknowledge those who are joining me this afternoon. Hello, coaches. Thank you for being here. And thank you also to my husband who's watching. May special mention. No? But thank you, thank you. I know everyone's very busy because it's a Monday, but I really appreciate you taking the time to be here this afternoon. So again, this is coaching for a healthy mind space. And today I will be sharing with you the first part of this 3 week series on a very common mental clutter that all of us experience from time to time. and this is the mental clutter of our anxious thoughts and emotions. And our discussion for this afternoon will center around common misconceptions and myths about experiencing anxiety. I'd like to start with this story in June 2017. That's me. I was actually 8 months pregnant that time. So 1 month na lang before I gave birth. And I accompanied my husband to his first triathlon race. So for those of you who are not familiar with triathlon, it's a sporting event wherein you have to do three types of sports. So that's swimming, biking, and running. So the night before the race, I was already thinking of anything and everything that could go wrong with his that I started to have intense stomach pain and contractions. And take note, it was not yet my due date. That was 8 months. So I still have a month to go. So because I was already starting to feel anxious about his upcoming race, and also me being pregnant and thinking that I still have a month to go, I really couldn't sleep. I couldn't concentrate, and I was really close to panicking at that time. Um, and little did I know that that incident that night will be the beginning of numerous other stressful and anxious moments for me. And to cut the long story short, a year after, I had postpartum depression, and I had to see a psychiatrist where she determined after a series of tests that the previous incident I experienced were also caused by intense anxiety. So yeah, that was my first very vivid memory of really having that awareness that I was having anxious thoughts, anxious emotion. So, but first, of course, we have to determine what is anxiety. According to the Oxford Dictionary definition, of course, we had to go to the dictionary first. Um, Anxiety is a feeling of worry, nervousness, or unease, typically about an imminent event or something with an uncertain outcome. That is the dictionary definition of this word. Meanwhile, if we want to go scientific or medical about it, this is what American Psychological Association said. And what she said, what it says is that anxiety is an emotion characterized by feelings of tension, worried thoughts, and physical changes like increased blood pressure. And people with anxiety disorders usually have recurring intrusive thoughts or concerns. So, just to be clear, every one of us, sorry, again, my screen is technical problems here. Let me just go back to that slide there. So just to be clear about it, everyone can experience anxiety. Okay, all of us have experienced anxiety in some form or another. And the thing here is that we experience anxiety because it is a normal reaction to threat and stress. And when we experience this feeling, it's actually a warning for us that we need to take some action. We need to be prepared. We need to be careful and be aware of, what's happening. But the thing is, sometimes this feeling of anxiety can become so overwhelming and it starts to interfere with our everyday life. And when it becomes so strong and so overwhelming, and for a prolonged period of time, it becomes chronic, then sometimes it becomes a disorder, and that's what needs treatment. Now, I just want to give a disclaimer. Of course, the conversation this afternoon will center around the emotion of anxiety in general and not about a specific disorder, which only licensed psychiatrists or mental health professionals can diagnose. So that's just to get that out of the way right now, and just for us to have a clear picture of the type of anxiety that I am sharing with you this afternoon. So, as I've said, it's actually a normal experience for all of us, and because it's a normal experience that everyone goes through, there could also be a negative impact when we overthink about it. And that's because the biggest problem for people with anxiety, or for people who experience anxious feelings, is that usually we have these misconceptions about the nature of anxiety itself. We have this beliefs or mistaken beliefs about the emotion of anxiety. And the thing with that is, when we misunderstand what anxiety really is and how it works in our life, we end up thinking and behaving in ways that unintentionally makes it stronger. That the next time that anxiety or that feeling of anxiety comes back, then it's actually stronger than when you first experienced it. So you see, the key in managing and getting a handle on your anxious feelings is to unlearn the misguided misconceptions we've heard about it, so we can properly address and deal with this anxious emotion. And it is Charles Spurgeon who said that really our anxiety does not empty tomorrow of its sorrows, but only empties today of its strength. And this is one of the main reasons why I believe that really trying to understand this emotion of anxiety that we go through and having a handle of it will allow us to have a healthy mind space and to have full and abundant life, so that instead of it overwhelming us and controlling us, we are the ones who are able to control this emotion. So now let's go to the common misconceptions that a lot of people have about anxiety, because I know that's what you're looking forward this afternoon. So the first one really is that the first myth is that anxiety is dangerous. And most people who struggle with anxiety, I think I included, have this incorrect belief that experiencing it, feeling it, is really bad. And it's actually understandable that most of us have that thinking that anxiety is dangerous. But then again, just because something feels bad doesn't mean it is actually bad. Okay? The symptoms of anxiety doesn't mean that something is wrong or broken. It only means that our body is doing exactly as science has dictated what it's supposed to be doing. That even if the initial assessment of the actual event or the anticipated event or the danger of that anticipated event is misguided, or in psychology they call it misappraisal. But just to put another perspective over this thought that anxiety is not really dangerous. So let's go to this example. Imagine with me for a minute. When you are cooking and there is a hot pan, okay, so when you touch the pan and you feel the warmth, it's a signal to your brain to move your hand quickly away from the hot pan. Otherwise, there's a danger of burning, and like if it's a really serious burning, then it could be tissue damage. And anxiety works that way. That um, that the pain that you experience when you touch the hot pan is not really dangerous per se. It's just a warning signal for you to remove your hand, because prolonged touching the hot pan is what's actually dangerous. And in the same way with anxiety, it's just a signal for us to understand that, okay, you are anticipating something, there could be a threat or danger around you, and you need to be prepared for it. So it's a neutral emotion. And the thing with that is, when you look at even other the physical symptoms that we experience when we go through anxiety, increased heart rate, or sometimes having a hard time breathing, or even you get dizzy or lightheadedness. These may seem dangerous per se, but these are also even not abnormal, because when we do other activities, we also experience those things. Like when we work out, we experience increased heart rate, and lightheadedness. Sometimes it's just is really a signal for us to be aware of our body and what we need to do. So you see, all the symptoms of anxiety, the symptoms or the signal of anxiety are normal effects of our body going into the fight or flight mode. Because although it may be inaccurate at times, our brain is telling us that we are in danger. That's what the brain believes. And I'd like to emphasize on the word believe, because sometimes when we get anxious or when we're anticipating a trouble or a threat, um, we're anticipating it, but in reality, we are not in danger yet. We just believe that we are. Right? I mean, usually we are anxious about an event happening in the future. So it's not even there yet. But the feeling of danger of threat is already there. And that's why we have to understand that really the feeling or the emotion of anxiety that we are going through is not really a threat yet. And yes, as I've said, anxiety is a neutral thing. It's a warning for us. And the emotion itself is not dangerous. But what really makes us get into trouble is when the anxious feelings that we have makes us more anxious. So we become more anxious about being anxious. And because of that, that's when a lot of other situations arises because of the overthinking of the situation. That's why worrying about the non-existent acute dangers of anxiety is the very thing that could lead to long-term or chronic anxiety and could bring a lot of potential risks. But again, while it may be uncomfortable for us, anxiety itself is not directly dangerous. But just because it's not dangerous doesn't mean that we will not be wary and we will not be on the lookout whenever we feel these anxious emotions. So there, when you think about anxiety, first, it is not dangerous. It is a neutral emotion. Now, the second myth about this emotion is that we need to understand the origin of our anxiety to deal with it. Sorry, that should have an additional in the slide to deal with it. And a lot of people um, has this belief that to be able to address what's causing that anxious emotion, they have to dig back into the past and really assess where it's coming from. But in reality, the way out of our anxious thoughts have very little to do with the past and everything to do with the present. Okay? Now, hear me out in this. Because usually, the original cause of anxiety that we have is not even the actual cause that we continue to have these emotions in the present time. Okay, um, just to give you an example. In my case, the origin of my anxious thoughts is rooted in the untimely demise of my mother, which left me and my brother in debt because of hospital bills. And that incident, that origin of the anxious feeling happened in 2005. So fast forward to 2021, more than a decade that my mom has been gone, and my habit of worrying, overthinking, and catastrophizing the present, especially with the pandemic, is what is causing me to maintain my anxious feeling. So the thing here is that I can continue to go and on about the past and what triggered it, but until I take the necessary actions to face my habit of overthinking, which is here in the present, then I would continue to have these anxious emotions and be scared anytime a family member of mine gets sick. So until I take care of the habits in the present that are keeping the anxiety the emotions will continue to come back. So I'm not saying it's not important for you to understand the origin of your anxiety. That could help. But you don't always need it to be able to deal with it. You see, there's a difference. Okay? You don't need it to be able to deal with it. But if it will help you, then of course, it helped me. But again, for you to deal with it, you have to focus on the present habits that are causing the anxious emotions. So if you really want to free yourself from anxiety, it's your present, not your past, that holds the key. Okay? And it's also, you also have to understand the habits that are maintaining it in the present moment. And this is what we should address head on. So, there. Now, the third myth or common misconception about anxious feelings is that people feeling anxious should always, and emphasis on the always, avoid stressful situations. And the keyword there is always, okay? But not only is this not beneficial, it's actually the opposite of what people with anxiety need to do. Okay, because usually, um, when we always try to fix or run away from what's causing these anxious emotions, we are teaching our brain to see our own anxiety as a threat. We're teaching our brain to see anxiety as dangerous. And when we go back to number one, we've already determined that the feeling or the emotion of anxiety is not dangerous per se. But when we always avoid stressful situations, when we try to run away from it and we don't face it, then this is what we are teaching our brains. And because, our brain really thinks that all anxiety that we experience is dangerous, even when it isn't. Even when it can be for other people, it may seem to them that it's what do you call this? It's irrational because sometimes there are certain worries and anxious emotions that we have that can be seen as irrational by other people. But our brain doesn't think that way. Whatever we are feeling, if it's an anxious emotion, then the brain is just thinking that there is a threat and we are in a dangerous situation, even when we are not. So that's why you know um, it is important for us to really learn to accept our anxiety. You know, um, it's very important for us to see that the alternative to avoiding this emotion is to accept that it will happen, that it is a normal emotion, that everyone will go through it one way or another. And that the only genuine way for us to really lower and address this anxiety long term is to teach our brains that anxiety is perfectly safe no matter how uncomfortable it may feel. 'Di ba? Parang, ang hirap eh. Kasi ayaw mo eh. Siyempre, wala naman yata tao na gusto nila na nasa uncomfortable silang sitwasyon. That's why it's so easy to just run away from it and avoid it. But whenever you do that, you are only highlighting to your brain that your anxious emotion is something dangerous. But again, feeling anxious is normal. And when we begin to see that in a more relaxed and objective position, to see anxiety for what it is, just an emotion to warn us. And when we are in that position, when we are in that viewpoint, then it is easier for us to deal with it properly because we are not overwhelmed. Diba? We're able to think properly about what we need to do with the anticipated threat. So, if you want to be free from anxiety, you must be willing to accept it as a normal feeling. Just like feeling of being hungry, it's normal. Feeling sad, feeling happy from time to time, it's a normal emotion. Anxiety is just like that. It's neutral. And when we learn to tolerate our anxiety and live with it. Um, it is signaling our brain we are allowing ourselves to be in a position to find other strategies to deal with it, to cope with it, and to address it. So that's why accept all of us will go through. Um, Another thing about this is there are times whenever we struggle with anxiety, that um, aside from learning to accept it, one thing that we need to do is to have the courage to face it. The only way that we can build courage to face it is to actually just face it, to not deny its existence and to accept it as a fact, and to be able to to say to ourselves that regardless of this feeling of anxiety, we will be okay. As for me personally, I still struggle with the idea of death. This is my confession. I still struggle with that idea, especially, of course, if it's someone very dear to you, a family, a friend. But I'm slowly and continuously finding ways to accept that death is natural. It is a fact of life, and it cannot be avoided. All of us will go through that route. And for me to continue to deny that truth is for me to continue to live with the anxious emotions that death can bring. The only way that I can deal with it is a fact of life. I don't welcome it. I mean, I still don't know how I will react, but just accepting that, okay, this event is bringing me life. Now I will be able to deal with it, like dealing with the present, making the most of the time I have with family members, with friends. That's how I am dealing with it. That's how I am coping. And I hope that, when you come to think of things that are bringing up these anxious feelings for you, you'll be able to come to a point to accept it also and find ways that will allow you to accept it, no matter how uncomfortable it may feel. Now, for the fourth misconception, many people with anxiety, of course, think that worry and anxiety are synonymous. And this is probably the most common myth about this emotion, that they are synonymous to one another. But they are completely different. And it's crucial for us to understand the difference so that we will be able to deal with both. Okay. So what is the difference? The difference is this. Worry is a thought, while anxiety is an emotion. Okay. So worry is a thought, anxiety is an emotion. So again, to give you a clear idea of how it is different, this is what worry looks like. You're about to meet someone on a first date, and your worry is this: oh no, what if he doesn't like me? Or another worry is this: you go to work, your mind would be, get promoted. Or sometimes when you're at home, your chest feels funny and you're already thinking, I'm probably having a heart attack. Those are worries. Now, if we convert it to anxious feelings, this is what anxiety looks like. You feel nervous before a big date. You're already thinking, okay, I'm not ready. You're feeling that your hands are sweaty, you fidget because you're feeling nervous. Or for the second example, you feel on edge in your, every time you see your boss, or when your boss tells you that he's calling you for a one-on-one session, you're already anticipating it. You're on edge. What you're going to say, what you're going to be discussing. Okay, that's anxiety. And the last example, when you think that, oh no, my chest feels funny, I think I'm having a heart attack. the equivalent anxiety for that is you feel terrified that you're having a heart attack, and now you're actually having a panic attack. So that's how different they are. And the distinction is worry is a form of thinking, while anxiety is an emotion. And why is it very important for us to differentiate worry and anxiety? Because the thing here is that in reality, we can actually okay, as a form of thinking, worry is something that we can really exert control over. When we change our mindsets, when we change our behaviors, and yes, it's hard, and it takes a lot of practice, and it takes a lot of intentional changing of thoughts to control and to transform those thoughts in our mind, but it is possible. Emotions, it's really harder to control it because our emotions are connected to our thoughts. Whatever we're thinking is a reflection of what we're feeling, and we cannot just decide that okay, I will feel more happy or more sad tomorrow. It's a no. But what you can do is you bring this emotion to the surface. And that is why you can only change your emotions indirectly, primarily by changing the way you think. So, change your emotions by changing your thoughts. And, sometimes we try to think that whenever we feel anxious, we try to make it go away, as I mentioned earlier, by avoiding it, or we find other unhealthy coping ways. For others, they stressful eating. For others, it's alcohol. There are many ways, but it actually only causes more anxiety for us, and it makes us afraid of our emotions. So that's why instead of trying to control the anxiety or the emotion, we control the thought, we control the worry, so that we are able to control the emotion and the anxiety. And so, for us, it is really important that as our mind gets renewed, when our thoughts are transformed, then our emotions, which stems from these thoughts, become manageable. We address the root of this anxious feeling, which is the thought. And when we do that, we're now able to have a handle and manage and deal with the emotion. So to summarize, the four common myths about anxiety are this. First is that anxiety is dangerous, but really it's a neutral emotion that serves as a warning for us. The second is that we need to know the origin of our anxiety to deal with it. But really, dealing with the present habits is the key to handling the anxiety and not just the past event. Third is that anxious people should always avoid stressful situations. But instead, we should embrace our anxiety to help us deal with it objectively. And last but not least is that worry and anxiety are the same, but they are not. Worry is a thought, while anxiety is an emotion. So, you know, um, we have to remember that it's really normal for us to feel anxious at times, and that is that this emotion has a purpose in how we humans have been created and designed. And most often than not, when we think about it, the type of anxieties we will experience will be a bit low level, in a sense that it's not really that what do you call this, life changing agad-agad. Usually the usual normal anxiety that we feel would be on something that is short lived, and no one stays in that emotion for a very long time, unless of course it's a disorder. But the general emotion of anxiety is really something something that we will all experience, and it's temporary. And as we all have a different view of what anxious thoughts are, I hope that what I shared earlier will allow you to have a better grip and understanding of whatever anxious emotions you are feeling. Because, as what J.K. Rowling said, understanding is the first step of acceptance, and only with acceptance can there be recovery. So, I hope that as we understand the nature of this emotion, we'll also be able to accept it and deal with it properly to help us be free and have full and abundant lives. And if you're someone who's been dealing with a lot of uncertain thoughts and emotions, and you feel that you're ready to dive deeper in conquering this self-doubts, that causes you anxious emotions, and you want to transform your life and your thoughts, and then I'd like to invite you to come and join my Courageous Living by Design coaching program. It's a 6-week journey where we will look at practical strategies to help you become more resilient and cope better with the challenge you are facing. So that you'll be able to develop a positive outlook in dealing with the things in your life. So that's for 6 weeks, and the sessions will be done online, and meetings will be via Zoom. So some of us, we've tried to do things our own way, and it's quite hard when we do it on our own. But I want you to know that when you have someone to encourage you and to support you, like a friend, a mentor, an accountability partner, or a coach, things can be different and they can be better. And so I hope that we can have a conversation. Do send me a message after this talk, and I'm really excited to have you on board this program. And now I'd like to also share with you what we are doing as a movement of professional certified life coaches. So if you are not yet a member of the Be Learning e-card, and I'd like to take this time to encourage you to take action and be a member. Connect with Coach Rizal through 0917-586-1661 so that you can join the Be Learning Society, which is the official tent maker of Be Learning Homes for Mental Fitness. So when you get this card, you get a 5% food and beverage discount from Decaf Coffee Republic, and you also get a full access to the Mental Model Masterclass by Master Coach A, which happens every third Saturday of the month. And on top of that, you will also get a 90-minute free coaching session with senior coaches of Life Coach Philippines. So for this month of September, happening on September 18 at 7 p.m., Master Coach A will be discussing the multiplier skills mental model mastery. So hope to see you there. Again, connect with Coach Rizal. And also, for individuals who intend to embark on a journey of becoming a certified life coach, Master Coach A now offers the Co-Actively Co-Create Life Coach Certification Program, which has it has 21 days of web-based learning, 3 days live coaching bootcamp with Master Coach A, and another 3-day live business bootcamp with senior coaching team. So the program is not just there are other bonuses included in the package. So if you are someone who's very interested to discover the opportunities that that can be found in this profession of life coaching, then I suggest that you take the certification, and you'll really gain a lot of insights. And not just that, but you'll also be able to find ways to practice immediately what you've learned, because it's a very hands-on certification also. So there, I hope to see you again next Monday for the second installment of this anxiety series that I'm sharing. And I hope that you will also join us for another coaching conversation at 4 p.m. with Coach Tin for Coaching for Relationships. So once again, this is Coach Maan Lamorena from Life Coach Philippines for Coaching Think Talk. Coaches like us think and talk like this. This is us from the Philippines. Love, Bamboo. Thank you and bye.